Hey guys, how are you today? Give me a thumbs up. Tell me you're here. And Priscilla, thanks for saying where you're from because you never know. The person next to you may be struggling with software like you are. Um, and I didn't realize I had all of my vinyl back here behind me. I'm like, what is that behind me? All of my adhesive vinyls are sticking up behind me because I was working with it the other day. So good to see you, Susan. Glad you could join me from Fort Lauderdale. It's a little bit warm there, I would think, today. Although I haven't looked at the weather, Tampa was actually cooler yesterday than it was here. And Wisconsin was warmer there this weekend than it was here. So you never can tell these days. All right, so I've got a few things for you today. One of them is concerning using the free design of the month. And this was Sandra's question. So I'll pop that in. And thanks for joining me today, guys. Give me a thumbs up. Be sure and like my pages, both Facebook and YouTube. I would appreciate it. So from the desert. Ooh, I'm so glad I'm not there. All right. So this month's free design is actually quite cute. I will have to say, let me pull it up here. And I'm going to show you a little trick here in case you all don't know this. So let me find my downloads. Here we go. So this design right here is the download of the month. And I went to Embroidery and downloaded it. If you hold your control key down and drag it into an open window, it automatically imports into that window instead of opens to it. So that, that keeps you from messing up your original. You want me to show you that trick again? I have no idea how big this design is. Oh, it needs to be in a bigger hoop. So let's go ahead and put up a bigger hoop for it because I'm importing instead of opening. If I just double click on it, it would open in here. But I'm doing a little trick that I do a lot when I don't want to have to go over to my import window and find things. If I'm in my Windows Explorer, I can simply click on the design, hold my control key down, and drag it into the window and let go. And there you go. It is in the design window and it's bigger than that one. So this is a big one this month. Let's see here if we can change the hoop again and make it the 200 by 300. That should work. And I'm going to rotate this. So let's go ahead and change our hoop to 90 degrees so that we can look at this in the correct orientation. And let's rotate left 90 degrees. There we go. So now we've got a big hoop and a nice little trick here. So if you look at this design, there are some serious jump stitches, and I'm going to change some colors here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. If I change this color to, what can we see? Maybe that color? Nope, that's worse. How about orange? Orange should make it show up for us. There we go. And let's look. If we look at it in stitch view, is it going to show it? No, it's not. I wanted you to see the jump stitches. Let me go back out. You can see them when we're further out. So if you look, these are supposed to be jump stitches, but it does not appear that's the way they are. The same thing happens down here in these hearts. They should be jump stitches, these long stitches here, but they're not. So let's change this color to something lighter so we can see underneath the red. So do you see those orange jump stitches there? Or they actually stitch and they don't trim. They should trim because they're greater than 5 millimeters for the most part, but they're not. So how can we fix that? Well, the first thing that we would do is come up here, let's select the design and let's go to our stitches tab and let's divide it by color. There are two ways that we can handle this. And the first way I'm going to do is hide all of the colors besides the ones I want to work with. So let's hide these for right now. Let's keep hiding. Trying to get down. Okay, that one right there should show us those orange ones. All right, so let's go ahead and hide this one too, and let's hide this one too. I just want to deal with the orange, okay? Since we've divided by color, if we look at our design here, you can see that there are two blocks of color showing up right now, and I could actually hide this one as well. And now my stars and my hearts are the only things that are showing up on my window. This one already says it's trimming. So you can see that those are dashed lines, and dashed lines indicate that those are jump stitches. So anytime you see a little dash line going across there, that is a jump stitch. So we don't need to worry with the stars. Those are good. But down here with our hearts, that's a different story. So if we click on our, let's go to our ruler and measure. I think this one jumps from here to about right here. When I measure from one point to the other and look down here, 6.3 millimeters. So it should be long enough that if I put a jump stitch in there, it should trim. So how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One of the ways is to simply go hold the shift key down and the control key on your keyboard and click on that line. You'll notice that the dots appear, your editing points appear, and then click on the line again, and you'll notice I created a jump stitch. Now take that jump stitch and see which point it navigates to and let go. Now if we measure from here to here, that's 6.04. Our machine would trim that jump. Let me do that one more time. We're going to click on to activate the points, hold the control and the shift key down together, left click on that line. You'll notice I've got a little dash line right there. Take it out here and see what point it's going to, and then drop it over the top of that edit point. And you could continue doing that. So that's way number one. That will keep that segment all one segment without you accidentally moving things around. Having said that, there's another way. If I click and add a point, right mouse click and say split it point, I can then delete that extra point, and that automatically creates a jump. But you'll notice it actually created another design. So it basically splits the design just as if I did the split stitches tool, which is the third way we're going to show you. So you basically click it, right mouse click, split it point, select the edit node and press delete on your keyboard, or right mouse click and choose delete. Either one of those ways will work. The third way is to select the color that you want to split. Go to the select tool, go to your stitches tool and choose your split stitches tool, and then snip around that design. Snip around the one that you want to get rid, that you want to split off, double click, and you'll notice that it is split apart. So now when I click on this one and click my select point tool, there's my edit point. I press delete, delete, and there we go, because it created a little tie off for us. So you basically have three stitches to delete that way. I personally would either do the shift control key and drag it down in there, or right mouse click, put a point in there, right mouse click on it, split it at point, delete that point, and then delete the end point on the other one. But it really depends on how far apart they are. That creates a split, which would allow you to reorganize those hearts if you needed to make a longer jump stitch. So you can see how these are separate designs. That's these three right here. And you could drag those around and change the order of sewing to where you create longer jump stitches, which would force your machine to trim. So the key of it is you have to have a length between those 2 points that's 5 millimeters or greater for a machine other than a PR to know that it's a jump stitch trim. Okay, a PR you can turn on and off your trims. You cannot do that. You can't program a trim for a single needle machine except to have a jump stitch or make it longer. So, and even if you have a jump stitch in there, if it's less than 5 millimeters, it's not going to trim because the machine is set to 5 millimeters is the smallest length that it can trim at. Okay. Any other questions? Did that answer your question there, Miss Sandy? And by the way, I loved your little project. For those of you all that want to know where to get the free design of the month, let me take you over there. If we go back to the first page of Embroidery, if you go down, scroll down, here's the design right here. You click on it and you press download now. And your design will be downloaded for you. Okay. So it's a pretty cute little design this time around. And Sandra made placemats with it, which was really cute. So let me go home and let's press new screen. Okay, the second question was how to create my own buttonholes in PE Design. Somebody wanted to bring a design in and create. This is my impression, April, of what you wanted to do. Okay, so let's see here. Yes, every month, Kelly, they do a free design of the month, and Joanne usually does a project with it. So that's this month's free design of the month. I haven't seen the project yet, but I'm sure it's out there on our blog. Haven't had a chance to look at it. So I'm going to bring this flower in here, and we're going to turn it into a buttonhole design. And it's going to be similar to what I just did, kind of. So, but if you look in here in your design library, you have buttonholes large, medium, and small. You can pick the buttonhole style and the buttonhole size that you want. So I'm going to choose BH07_S. And I'm going to rotate that design 90 degrees to the right. Okay. Now here's my little trick for you. Because when I go to my split stitches tool, everything this part of the design is going to gray out my buttonhole, and it's kind of hard to see. So if I look at it, I'll show you what I'm talking about. When I go to my stitches tool and choose split stitches, you'll notice that that's grayed out, but it's very hard to see. And there's no way to change that depth of color. Okay. So what you can do is as long as you have your page ruler up, and if you don't know how to do that, go to your view tab. And where it says ruler and guidelines, make sure both of those are on. That allows us to put in little guidelines. So what I can do is come in and click on my page ruler and add a little point where I want to click around. I'm going to put one on the opposite side. And then I'm going to put one at the highest point that I want to remove, and the lowest point cross section where I want to move. And then I can move it wherever I need it to go. Okay. So now let's take this one up just a little bit. All right, so now I can use my split stitches tool. So let's come and select our design again. It's selected. Let's go to our stitches tab and then choose the split stitches tool. Now I have something that I can refer to take out those stitches beneath. So if I left mouse click around here, I want to stay within those boundaries of those guidelines. It's kind of hard to see on your screen, I know, but it's when I change my cursor to big, it does nothing for you, I learned. So I stopped doing that. And what happens is the design part that I snipped out comes up with black squares around it. And if you look right there, you can see those little black squares. Now I'm just simply going to press delete. And those stitches that are underneath there have disappeared. So if I hide my buttonhole, you'll see that they have gone away. Now there are still some in there. So if you wanted to get rid of those, you could turn them into jump stitches. So I could do my Control Shift, turn that into a jump stitch. I could just delete these two right here. But honestly, I don't know that I would worry about it because I'm pretty sure your seam ripper would come in here. Let's split that one at point. Same concept that we were doing a minute ago. But I kind of like this way better, the Control Shift and then select one. That way I can bury it and it keeps the design as one instead of making them different segments. And there you go. So now you've created your buttonhole. This stitch right here, we could just tuck it under. And then turn your buttonhole back on. And that's how I would take a design and add a buttonhole to it. Hopefully that answered April's question for her. Oops, sorry, Princess. Dropped my phone, came out of my pocket. So let's see here. Other questions today. Oh, there was one more that came in, and it was about creating designs for embroidery foam. Okay. Embroidery foam designs have to be digitized in a special way. And that way is they can't have open ends, and they have to have more density to them. And this your software does have um, what am I trying to say? Does have a density setting for puffy foam, for embroidery foam. So let's look at that. And we'll start with just basic lettering first. So let me select, let's just hit new page. And I want a 4x4. I'm in a 4x4, that's great. So let's just grab the letter C for today's purposes. And I'm going to make it big. And there are a couple of settings that I would want to do. The first one would be in my sewing attributes, I would want my under sewing to be this one. Okay. Your outside edge only. Okay. The other thing that you'd want to do is come in here and increase your density. And you can go all the way up to 14 millimeters. So it just depends on what you're having happen. But the biggest thing that I want to tell you is that if you look here on these edges, even though I put an edge run only, I still have one down the center, but that won't kill it. You'll notice that these end caps are open. So your foam would not cleanly perforate from there, which means you need to cap it off. And how do I do that? So you can come in and you can grab your block punch tool. This is the easiest one to do. And just click and double click and do the same thing with it. You want your density increased massively, and you want the edge run only. And it doesn't have to be a big cap, so I made that one kind of big. I can shrink it down a little bit. And there you go. And you would do the same thing on the other end. So let's go home and pick our block punch tool and do this. And it should have held my density that time, and it did. And if you need to adjust your nodes, you can always adjust your nodes if you can find them. There it is. And then do the same thing down here at the bottom, because all the ends need to be capped off. Can't have any open ends. Oops, I was right the first time. Y'all want to know why I said oops? Hold on, I'll show you that. So I was clicking and I couldn't remember which side I chose as the first. And so I went the opposite direction. But you see when I get that crisscross, that is not what I want. So I right mouse clicked and got away from that and then went up and back down. And there you go. So now there's my end caps. Those are pretty good. And they can be tucked underneath there. They don't have to be loud and proud. And since you didn't digitize this font yourself, the software did. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that one down a little bit more. Or I could take off my pull compensation. Actually, that's probably the easiest thing to do. Let's take that down to nothing. There we go. Do the same thing with this one. Now, I would take those and have them sew first and change the color to match the color of my text. And then you have whoops, hit the wrong button there. Zoom out. Then you have a design that is created for embroidery foam. Now, one of the questions that I get a lot is embroidery foam, is it the same as craft foam? It is not, okay? There are 2 millimeter and 3 millimeter weights for embroidery foam, but embroidery foam can be washed. Craft foam, not necessarily. It can fall apart after it's been washed. So there is, in my understanding, a difference between embroidery foam and craft foam. Now, what you do want to do is make sure that you match the color of your foam to the color that you're going to do the text in, to the thread that you want the text done in. Those are the big things that you would do. Now, let's say we were doing a shell design. Let's see here. Let me see what have we got in our outline. So let's go to import and let's go to outline shapes and see what we've got in here. Aquatic, maybe? Yeah, here's a shell and aquatic. All right, let's change this color right here to purple so you can see it. Now this is an outline shape, so it's the same as if I created it myself. So if I come and I select that color and I go to my shapes menu, I can change that to a satin stitch. All right, that's the first thing I would do. I'm going to say I'm having this part right here be embroidery foam. And so then I would go into my sewing attributes. I would choose undersewing, edge run only. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. So I would not put any undersewing on that one. It's going around the outside edge, so we're fine with that. But you would want to increase your density. This is where that density issue comes in. Now, once again, you would need to cap those ends. Because they are open, you would cap that end in the same exact manner as we did the other ones. You come in and cap that in. You'll notice I did a few more clicks that time to make it round. Now, I probably would have done this in the correct order if I had been thinking, but I wasn't. And you do that to all the tops and all the bottoms of that area. But we wouldn't necessarily have just that part done. So, that gives you an idea, however, how it works, and that will take care of you. And take them and have them sew with the part that they need to sew with. Okay. All right. So that's it for the questions that have come in for me today. So what else do we have that you all would like to know about? This is the last week of the sale for the decorative fills. Actually, today is the last day. It ends today. I extended it for another week last week, and today is the cutoff date on that one. What was I going to say? I don't guess I have any other any other thoughts. So other questions for me today. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go off script. Come on, y'all. You've got to have a question for me today. There's got to be something you want to do. In how to change the spacing between letters in BES4. All right, hold on just a second. I haven't opened my BES4. Usually I have them all up and running, but I do not have that today. All right, let's pop this baby over here and share my screen. Depending on what text tool you're using, Linda, it will depend on what you get. So I'm going to put in Cindy here. Oops, wrong program. And left click. Let's go ahead and let's make this a regular size font, not a baby font. Okay. Oh, the basting box on the machine. Yeah. There is a basting stitch, but you're not going to be able to do what you want, Kelly. Hold on a second. All right, Linda. So if you look right here, these little diamonds allow you to move them individually. Now, if you change something afterwards, it's going to go back to the set. So if I change my font style after I have changed my distance, it resets everything back to the defaults. So this is how you do them one at a time. You can take them and make them bigger. You're always working with the one in front of the letter. And it's the diamond that allows you to do that. If you just want to move an individual letter and you want to move it, you can click on the square and it moves it wherever you want it to go. It doesn't keep it on the line in this manner. But if you want to keep it on the line, you use the diamond. And if you want to change, if you want to go back to the defaults, right mouse click and say reset frame or reset letter, and that takes it back to how it was at the beginning. Does that? You also have spacing over here on the right, which if you want to decrease your spacing, let's say we do a -1 and click apply. That does it for the overall word, not just an individual letter. So that's how that is changed. I kind of like that font. I hadn't played with siblings lately. I'm going to have to put it on my list of favorites, which while we're here, I can show you how to do that. Let's go to our View tab and go into our Preferences. And let's see here. If you go to fonts and see, here's my category favorites, and siblings is not in that list. So I can come scroll down through here and hunt for siblings, which is going to be way down at the bottom of the list. There it is. Click add, and now I have it. I can say okay. If you were creating your own list, you would, I'm going to save that one. Actually, it should be fine. I'm going to say new, and let's say I'll just do Facebook Live here. Oh, already exists. Let's Facebook Live 2. Okay. So you can come in, you can add them. So I can hold my control key down. Actually, you do have to actually hold the control key down to skip in between. If you hold the shift key down, it picks up everything in between. If you hold the control key down, it lets you skip. So let's say I wanted Bottle Pop, Bounce, and Brandon, and then I decided, ooh, I think I want cartoon as well. Those add it. Now, if you want to delete a list, you can press delete. If you want to remove one from your list, you can take it and remove it. So let's say I don't like Bottle Pop. I can remove it from my list. So I am actually going to delete this font because I don't need it, but I'll show you mine. So siblings is still in my favorites. I click OK. And so if I go to my font category over here in the properties window, you'll see where it says favorites. Siblings should now be added to my favorites list. You'll notice it is there. And these are the ones that are in my favorites list. So these are my most frequently used fonts. Those are the ones that I go to most often, and I tend to have a habit of using them time after time again. Okay. Kelly, the basting box on the machine, you couldn't make it a basting stitch. Okay. There is a basting stitch on the machine. It's not, you can't set it to a frame size. And that's what I was understanding you wanted to do. You were trying to make your hoops, your Durkee frames of the, whatever those are called. I can't remember what they're called, but the Durkee frames that are non-standard sizes, you were trying to make a basting box so you would know the area. What I can tell you is, you can do it in your software. You can come in here to P Design. And what I would do is, let's delete everything. Come in, grab your rectangle tool. And let's say that this was 7 inches by 7 by 4. So I can come in here and I can change this to a running stitch. Change this to not the fill stitch to not sewn, and change my run pitch to about 8 to 10. You pick. Either of those will work. And then go to your home tab, choose size, and let's put it in inches. Choose size, and let's say we want to say it is, what did I say, 7 by 4. I'm going to take off maintain aspect ratio 4 and say OK. There it is. And now if I click on my hoop size, I can actually create a hoop for myself here that is 7 by 4. So I can come in here and say 7 by 4, add a hoop. There it is on my list, and say OK. So now when I come down to my hoop sizes, down at the very bottom, these ones with little dashed lines are my hoops. So underneath this line here, these are the hoops that I've created. So that one should be a 7 by 4. And if I do Control M, you'll notice that is 7 by 4. But my design is bigger than the embroidery space. So you probably want to measure that in metric. And remember that when you're using a non-standard hoop, you want to make it 10 millimeters smaller all the way around. Each side, so take 20 millimeters from your end measurement to make it all the way around. Okay. Okay. I understand what you're saying. You could, your edit user hoop would be probably the easier way to do it, but just make you a stitch frame in P Design and take it over there and do that. Does that make sense to you? And seriously, you want to make sure that you make your design 10 millimeters smaller than the external edges of that frame, because if you don't, you will hit it, since it's not one that's standard. Okay. All right, let's see here. Uh-oh. Susan, does your scan mat say a DX scan mat? There are two styles of scan mats. One is for the first ScanNCut, and the other is for the DX models. It needs to have DX on it. Ask me how I know. So let me see if I can find the two different ones. Sorry, you're going to see blank screen for a minute. Okay, so there's also another difference that you'll notice. On the DX ones, it'll see CADX right down here. CADX mats 12, okay? And you can see all this stuff on the bottom of it here. That is similar to what the other one, but you'll notice you don't see ScanNCut anywhere in this area. And you'll notice you have square boxes at the top, okay? On the original ScanNCut mats, down at the bottom, you'll see ScanNCut. You do not see CADX whatever. And you have circles at the top. So that's the difference between the two mats. Now, if you try to use it when you're in cutting mode, if you load it while you're cutting something, it will say this mat cannot be used because it does not want you to mess up your scanning mat with cutting. So, I mean, that would be, go look at your mat and make sure you have purchased the correct scan mat. Otherwise, you may have a kink in it, and when you load, you're not getting it loaded incorrectly. Those are the only reasons I can think of that it would not be recognizing it. It's either the wrong mat, or you are trying to use it in the wrong mode. You're in cutting mode, trying to scan it in, and it won't let you do that. Or so like if you were trying to do direct cut, it will say this mat cannot be used, but it's saying this mat is not recognized. So it may have a kink in it, and so it's getting loaded incorrectly. So those are the wrong mat. Okay, good. Glad we could solve that problem for you today. So take it and trade it back. Why doesn't the Stellaire show each hoop size on the embroidery edit screen? Well, Kelly, I didn't know it didn't do that. You can't go into your settings and choose to have the frame display. I thought we could do that, but I don't have the Stellaire in here, so I'll have to investigate that one for you, and I can request that if it's something that's truly not there. Does what work in P? Now, P Design, I do not think we have a favorites list. Let's see. Hold on, let's look. We can always go check. Let's go over here to P. That was P Design. If I go to my fonts, yeah, no, I do not have a favorites list. I do have a font filter, but I do not have and I can choose what I want in my filter. So if I want to have these, if I just want block and script to show up, I can choose that. and it does not look at true type fonts. Now these are the only fonts that are going to show up. So there is a font filter that I can, to some degree, filter. Oh, you do have to actually tell it to filter. That I can do some filtering, but not as much. I can't set up favorites. The last 5 that I use will always be at the top. So that's kind of one of those. All right, guys. Any other questions for me today? Because if not, y'all know it's that time of year that things are nuts around here. So if there's not a lot of more questions, then I'm probably going to sign off for the day. But if there are questions, I will be happy to answer. I'm not seeing anything so far. The other thing, Kelly, that you can do in this template thing is you could print it out. So after you've done that, you could actually go up here, print, and choose your print settings, print setup. And let me pick where I want it to print to. And you could have it print your center axis so that you would know it. So if you if you choose that to do that, oh, I wanted to do print preview. Let's do print preview. There we go. So this would give you your center axis for the axis. I can't say that today for you. And that way you would know that you have it in the center. So you could always print your template. Make sure it's actual size though. When I create 2 motifs, do I need to create 2 separate ones to go around a square? Yes. So if you, I think I understand what you're asking. Sandra, let me read that again. I wanted all the strawberries with stems to the top on the sides and the top and the bottoms. So you're wanting, yeah, you'd have to create separate lines, I think, to do what you're wanting to do, if I understand you correctly. So you're saying you want to have a square and you're wanting to, let me just do a little square here. And you're wanting to have a motif stitch and you're wanting my strawberry motifs. So let me find strawberry motifs. Strawberries are in summer. Those are decorative fills, motifs. All right, so strawberries. And you're wanting to do the stems to the top on the sides and the top and bottom. I really am not understanding your question. I am truly not quite getting your question. You want them reversed? Oh, I know what you're saying. Okay, yeah, you'd have to do separate lines. So in order to achieve what you wanted to achieve, I do believe we would have to hold our shift key down here. And then hold our shift key down here. And tell me if I've got this right when I'm done. All right, so let me get rid of my original square. Okay, so if I want these flipped, so let's say I want these flipped to the center. In order to be able to flip them, I would have to do what I just did. So if you're, in order to flip, you have, did I hit that right? Yes. Okay. I'm like, am I doing this one right? In order to flip them, you would have to have separate lines. And this would also allow you to kind of smush them in to where you don't quite overlap. Now, Sandra, that other thing that we noticed, I have a workaround for you. So when Sandra was playing with the motifs, and this is not just my motifs, it's everybody's motifs. When we adjusted the offset spacing here, you'll notice that there was no line there. When you adjust the offset spacing, you get a line going through them. There is a workaround. I don't know why we have to do this right now, but you want to choose your select tool, your select point tool, and take them to where they start and stop at the same spot. And that should take it away. So if we look here, oh, nope, it didn't. So hold on. I must not have my line far enough out. Hold on. Let's go select point. Maybe a little bit. There we go. So that's how you have to make, you just kind of have to adjust that little, the first one just a little bit to where it no longer stitches in that place. So you want the sides. Oh, you're wanting them stacked on top of each other. I would have had to create them with the stem is, if I think what I hear you saying is you want this strawberries stacked to where they would be going this way. Let me go back to default settings here. There is not a way to do that if they have not been created that way. And since mine were not created that way, I'd have to recreate the whole thing to where it starts here and ends here. So it'd have to be digitized that way. There is no way to rotate that in that manner. Having said that, Sandra, there probably is a workaround. So let me think here. If I come into my shapes tool and I grab my rectangle shape, and let's just make a small one. And let's turn off the outline, and let's turn on the fill as a motif. And let's go find that motif. Now, this would be your workaround. Take it down to until it's one motif section. And you'd have to play with the size to get them the size you need them to be, but then convert to stitches and get rid of those outside lines. I would split that at point. And then I can delete that. Oh, undo. And just select that whole little line there. But they have to be able to connect somehow. So it is connecting that side. Okay. So yeah. There is a workaround if you want them stacked. Just turn them into a fill and shrink that fill in to make it one, to where it's one unit. Now, like I said, it has to travel from one to another. So if you don't want that travel stitch where it is, you could delete it and it would automatically it should automatically go to the next stitch in line, or you could use the split stitches tool, but I think it would work for you. Francis, we are not rated for food safe. Okay. So I would not cut edibles with my ScanNCut. Those have to be, in order for us to promote it as that type of a product, we would have to go through food safety type things and have special materials just for that. And they have chosen not to go that route. So, there's a whole process that you have to go through to make sure that your glue on your mat is food safe, all of that kind of thing. So I would not suggest that. Okay. Since it is not rated for food safety, I don't think I would use it as a food item. Okay. Any other questions for the day? So Sandra, I do love how you turn at your, let's see here. Let me show you what she did with her. Let's see if I can find that on Facebook and I can show you how she did it here. Oops. Here we go. So let's go into the education connection. Let's see here, groups. And this is a good way to get questions to me as well. So here is, this is Sandra's take on it from the American Summer design that we were looking at earlier. And she used the strawberries as a background fill for her around the outside edges of it, which would be done like this. So let me go, let's hit new again. And let me drag this into the window, hold my control key down and drag it in. I'm not sure what hoop you used, but I'm going to rotate that left 90 degrees. And let's put it in the big honking hoop. So, let's rotate that hoop 90 degrees too. And she went with the background fill and told it there's where she wanted to go. And then she went and grabbed the strawberries. So let's find the summer collection and come here. And there we go. Where's the strawberries? There they are. I do love the strawberries. And she chose to have minimize the feed. And I'm assuming you increased your offset spacing to give it that nice little square around the outside edge. And that keeps it from having jump stitches as well. So, oh, wait a minute. I see something else that we probably needed to do. So I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to put a square on there. I just noticed something that it was doing. Hold on. I'll let you see why I'm putting a square in here. I'll go ahead and do the background fill here so you can see it. And let's take that offset spacing up. I'll make it massive so you can see. So do you see how it's gone right around that edge? And she has a nice clean edge on hers. To get that nice clean edge, you would need to put a rectangle around it, and then you could delete your rectangle, but you'll notice that it is going around those little edges right there. So it's going inside the area. And not truly, but it's basically kind of taken away from the American flag. So let me come and grab this and delete it. And you would then go, yes, come in and grab your rectangle tool, turn off the fill stitch, and we'll just turn into a running stitch here and draw a rectangle the size of that little dash line. And if you need to make it bigger, you can make it bigger. And I'm used to doing this in metric, so I'm switching back to metric, guys. It's just my way. It helps me with things if I know it and if I'm on the metric side. Okay, so now let's do background fill. Click it, next, and let's pick our strawberries. And choose your offset spacing, update your preview, and click OK. Then you can go back in and turn off that square. You can just delete it. So that first square, I can come down here and select it, select pattern, move my cursor in and press delete. And that original square that I had drawn will be gone. And then change your strawberries to the color red. So, yes. And if we look back at Sandra's first one, let's go back to her first one here. That's what she did. So she made a frame around it, knowing what size she wanted to go. Very cool, Sandra. I like that one. You are playing way more with your fills. I haven't got to play with my fills very much, which is a bummer because I've made them so that I could play with them as well. And I just haven't had a chance to play with them. So bummer. ScanNCut doesn't print. So, and like I said, we don't do edibles. We do not do edibles. We are not rated for that. We draw, and we draw with markers, which are not edible. So yeah, I would not suggest that. So yes, Sandra says too cool. Excuse me, Molly says too cool. Sandra, yes. Oh, well, I'm glad I had fun with them. Yes, the ladybugs would be cool with them as well because they've got ladybugs in it. I mean, there's a lot of the flowers would work with it if we look at I mean, so the flowers some of the flowers from the spring collection would have worked. What else would have worked? Let's come and look. Oh, stop. Let me get out of realistic mode. Realistic mode is slower if you all didn't realize that. So the ladybugs would have been kind of fun because they have ladybugs and hearts in them, and that kind of goes with, you've got hearts down here and you've got ladybugs, so those would have been fun with it. Let's see what else would be fun. Oh, here's the bees would be kind of cool, but not as cute. So let's go to the spring collection one. I think is the one I'm looking for. Because I think these flowers or the loop flowers, either one I think would be fun. Kind of go with that. All right, guys, let's see here. I'm sorry, Debbie, I didn't see that. ScanNCut recommendation. Depends on what machine you have. If you have a Stellaire or a Luminaire, I would go with a 325 or a 330, depending on whether you want Disney or not. If you don't have one of those two machines, my connection doesn't come into play. So, I mean, if you have a good dealer in your area, one of those two would be great because they have the My Connection feature in them, and they have the most that come in the box with them, as including the most patterns. If you don't, then it all depends on how many patterns and what do you want to come in the box. You have a persona and you love Disney. Well, the 330D is the Disney model. There is also out there a 230DI that is an internet model. You will not get dealer support off of that one because it is either a brother purchase or an Amazon purchase, I believe, are the two that carry the 230DI. It is a Disney machine. It's cute. I will say it's stinking cute. It's red and white. Red and white and black. I like it. I like its color scheme very much. But it does not have the My Connection feature in it. So if you think you might be going to grow into a different machine, you would rather get a 330 or a 325. So it really just depends on what you want. Those are the two that come with the most bells and whistles. Having said that, you can purchase any DX accessory for any of the other models. So if an SDX 85 is the only thing that's in your budget, go with an SDX 85. You will not get Disney with that model, but you can purchase Disney patterns, Disney collections through Canvas Workspace. Actually, those are a dealer purchase. I take that back. You activate them through Canvas Workspace, but you do have to purchase the Disney pattern collections from a dealer. The Disney pattern collections that are available for purchase are not the same ones that are built into the machines. Okay. There is a whole set of Disney that was a roll feeder item on the 330DX. So you've got an entire thing of Disney roll feed designs. The 330 came with the rotary auto blade and the Disney rotary auto blade collection. So that is only with that one. I mean, that's really cool. The Disney Rotary Auto Blade comes with the Disney Rotary Auto Blade collection, plus the Everyday Auto Blade collection. So, that's kind of something. So, yeah, if you have a good dealer, I would purchase from my dealer because you will get the most out of it. Okay. I hate it when people purchase their machines and they don't have anybody to support them besides the internet and YouTube. And there's so much misinformation out there that you can get that sometimes you make things worse. The one thing I will tell you about any ScanNCut, and this is straight out of the horse. I mean, do not use a spray adhesive. Whatever you do not use a spray adhesive on your mats. It will ruin your mat. Your mat cannot be renewed. It cannot be cleaned after you've done that. And it will gum up your scanner glass and gum up your rollers. So don't do that. Avoid it at all costs. The other thing that I've heard people do is to use a zig pen to re-glue their mats. That you can do that. I don't suggest it because it creates an uneven cutting surface, which makes your cuts difficult for the machine to calibrate. You buy it because it has the auto blade depth on it, and that means it's calibrating based on the blade. Basically, it calibrates the mat, how far it is to the mat. Then it comes back and it looks at your material and measures that depth. Once it's done that, it knows how deep it needs to cut. If you have glued your mats and there are uneven clumps along there, that cut's not going to be a clean cut, okay? We do not have any Winnie the Pooh designs. So unfortunately, we do not have any of it. So I don't re-sticky my mat. I clean my mats. I mean, technically, I'm not supposed to tell you this. So you should email me and I'll tell you the product that I use, okay? Because I can't land blast it on Facebook. I'm not going to tell you to pick off the lint of your mat with tweezers, but I have mats here that I've had since my first 225 that I still use. So, I mean, that's a good 6-7 years. And now do they get less sticky? Yes. I mean, there's only so many times you can clean a mat before it's going to get less sticky, but I still use that mat. I'll use it for paper. I'll use it for my, what am I trying to say? My adhesive vinyls. I'll use it for my vinyl, but you can keep them pristine. You can pretty well do a great job of keeping them nice and clean if you clean them each and every time and you don't scrub them and you don't leave media on them. I was down at my stepmom's. I was down at Dad's a couple of weeks ago, and I've given her a 550. Okay. She has my old 550. And I go down there and I'm planning on using it because I've got some work to do. And I thought, well, I'll just use the 550. I don't want to take one of mine. I'll deal with having to take the USB over there. No big deal. Well, I get down there and she's got stuff laying on every mat and taped to it. Okay. And who knows how long it's been taped to it, but I'm going to tell you it was long enough that the tape had glued itself to the glue. So if you have stuff, when you're done with it, peel it off. Don't keep it on there because that will ruin your mat. So every time I'm done cutting, I make sure every piece of tape is off of that mat and I clean it. If your mat stops loading correctly, one of the things that you can do is look on the back of it and see if you have grooves going in the wrong direction. Because if you load it correctly, you won't have that problem, but we all had that problem to begin with because it loaded so fast. They've slowed down the load. They've slowed down the load feature to where it doesn't grab it and go crooked as often. Unless you're not paying attention. As long as you put pressure on it, slide it in, it will go. But having said that, there are times that doesn't work. Tape over the grooves is one way. The other way is to lightly sand it off, just to get rid of the groove that's on the back of it so that it can take a different path. Because what it's doing is it's going through its memorized path. And all it takes is 1 or 2 times of you loading it in incorrectly and pulling it back out that it gets that groove in there really bad. So, but the best way is never to, try your best not to load it incorrectly in the first place. The other thing that can happen is you can get a kink in it. Well, flatten that kink out. I mean, I've just bent it the opposite direction and I've been there way that many times. So, but I do not suggest resticking your mat. But I do not suggest resurfacing. If it's lost its sticky and you have scraped it and you've messed it up, it's time to get a new one or use the different parts of it. I mean, I do have some mats that this part's no good anymore that I cut all the way over here, depending on what I'm doing. But if I'm doing adhesive vinyl, It doesn't necessarily have to stick to the mat. I can just tape it down. Um, so think about it in terms of what you're doing. There's some things that have to stick to that mat. But if you're doing something with a half cut, it doesn't necessarily need to be stuck like Chuck. It just needs to adhere to the mat in some manner, which means you can use adhesive. I mean, you can use tape. Okay. Um, and if you do that, you'll be all right. All right, guys, we are past our hour. So I guess I'm going to say ta-ta for today because I do not hear anything. I do not see anything else there. So, all right, y'all, you have a great rest of the day. Let's see here. Oh, thanks so much, Trudy. I'm so glad you're enjoying them. I had a blast creating those. I have another set in my mind that I'm trying to get time to do, but right now is a really busy time. I was hoping I could get them done, but not happening. So, all right, guys, you all have a great rest of the day. Remember, today is the last day of that sale. Hold on, let me see here. What are the coupon codes? I guess I should say that. If you buy all three collections, you get the third half off. Okay, that is basically $20 off. Any one collection, you can get 15% off of it. Those coupons go away after today. If you are part of the Education Connection, there is a special coupon code for you guys. So be sure if you decide to join the Education Connection that you say that you agree to the terms and you tell us what you want. All you got to do is do those two things and you will be automatically entered to play with us. Okay. All right, guys. Turkey feels, Christmas feels, I'm thinking, Patty, y'all put in your request as to what you want. You never know what you'll get, but I'm trying to get some done. So I had some other summer ideas that I wanted to get out, and I've got one that's stinking cute, but I've only got one. So, all right, guys, have a good rest of the day. Send in your questions for next week because, as I said, this is my busiest time of the year. So send them in so I can have time to think on them, ponder them, and get them going in. All right. Okay, guys, you all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later.